Hi, so my name's David and I use the name Ghostpatrol. I've been using this name for like 10 years, but not always as an artist. It was just really a login name that when I started making artwork, it was just, I guess I thought of it as a brand, but really it was just a persona, and I moved pretty quickly into street art and graffiti, so that really made sense to have another name. And I think, I'm not sure how I feel about it. Sometimes it seems a little bit uncool to have this other name, but it also is this other layer to me that maybe I'll talk about a bit later. It's, yeah, it helps keep this creative part separate to my personal life or me. There's like an ancient Greek kind of understanding of ego and things that kind of separates it from a human. It's like personifying it. It's something else. And my artwork is, and my creations are something else. They're sitting out somewhere else. And a second name helps me with that. So, yeah, I'm not a very good speaker about things. That's probably the reason I make artwork. So as a child, I drew non-stop. Yeah, being pretty socially awkward and shy. I really like maths and things like that. So drawing was just one of those things that makes me happy, and I didn't really know what art was, or didn't really know anybody artistic, or I hadn't really been to galleries or anything like that, probably realistically until my early 20s. So yeah, I grew up in Tasmania, and it felt pretty quite isolated, I guess. I finished school like in the late 90s, so kind of pre-internet times, so to find a magazine about, you know, LA kind of underground art or some manga or something like that was very, very rare. Even getting hold of good music just seemed really rare, especially considering, you know, a few years after finishing school, all of that was available all the time. And so I know this good contrast about being isolated and feeling like I was living at the bottom of the planet, to then having everything available, any song ever recorded or any film ever made. And so yeah, I had this big yearning for searching for imagery and just exciting things, good music, good art and things. So when that came along, yeah, I was pretty primed to soak it all up. So I was really obsessed with early 80s cartoons, mainly Japanese and French style animation, and that's probably still evident in my work. I guess my work is, you know, just like a child would draw. I haven't really stopped since I was a child, so, and not going to art school or not training in any art. I never took any art electives at school. That hasn't interfered, and so maybe that's the innocence and the other parts I like about my artwork maybe still come through. They haven't been drilled out of me, or I haven't had to justify them in another way. Not to say that all art school or any art training is bad, but it hasn't really worked for me. It hasn't helped me to do stuff. Maybe it would be useful. I don't know. It doesn't really seem to interfere with what I do. I really just have a drive to jump out of bed every day and just make lots of work. I don't need anybody telling me to make work or to do this or try something else. These ideas that seem innate to me, even the themes in my work, I find weird. You know, I've been making this work publicly for more than 10 years, so to have to talk about it and justify it seems kind of strange, that I have to almost start at the beginning. Even concepts such as collaboration or something like that, people ask, oh, so is collaborating good? Yeah, it's good. Like, it's not. I guess in school that's cheating, and outside it's collaboration. So combining your skills with other people and learning from other people, of course that makes sense, right? It seems weird to have to even say this out loud. You know, collaboration is a normal part of life, and you know, this is a collaboration. Being in Melbourne is a good thing. I'm around a lot of artists. All my friends are artists from different disciplines. I don't really draw a lot of inspiration from, well, not directly from other artists. I try to look outside of art all the time for my inspiration to what to make, or the content of it, or what makes me happy. It's really this drive for things that are fun to make or make you happy. Okay, and now I'm going to look at my notes. So yeah, growing up I didn't really do much art, and I actually was pursuing coding and was making a lot of databases, so I ended up doing IT, and that was the freelance work that I was doing in my early 20s. And I slowly drifted into doing a lot of street art and graffiti, and between there I moved from Tasmania to Melbourne and Sydney, and I lived in England for a while. And so I didn't really know what that world was all about when I entered it, and I was just kind of making it, and the more I, in between making the work, I was starting to connect with a few other people online who were making the work. That culture and that world is actually really inviting, and something that seems to have no rules means you can be anonymous and just enter, and it lets you produce a lot of work. I think a lot of people who would like to be making creative work, it's intimidating to open up a sketchbook or to have a big blank wall and to start. For me, I've done thousands and thousands of drawings to get to this point where I'm comfortable. So when it comes to wanting to make something, I don't have so much, doesn't feel like pressure. Last week I was painting a big mural on the side of someone's house in Melbourne, and I showed up with my scissor lift, and it's about a 6-metre painting I knew I was going to paint. And the woman whose house it was went inside to get some water, and by the time she came back out, I'd already sketched up this 6-metre mural and started to fill it in. And she was just, she was blown away. She was really happy. She was excited that this was happening. But she said, "Oh, you're so confident." And as soon as she said the word confident, that's not me. Like I'm just so practiced, and I'm so used to just turning off reality and going into my mindset of shaking my arm, and these things come out. That to think about, I have to talk to you guys about why I've done this stuff or how I got to do it. It's not really part of my day-to-day life or the motivation to get this stuff out there or make money. None of that actually really matters. I just have a big a love for producing the work and analysing it myself and moving on. It's great that other people like it, but obviously this is something that I'm not very good at articulating, mainly because I don't really have to. I'm pretty privileged to have had a lot of support, and just by putting this work out in the world, a lot of people have given me great opportunities, so I just keep making the work the way that I like to, and these things come up, so yeah, that's kind of confusing, right? So I guess I try to be really aware, especially when I'm asked to speak at something like this, that I've been given a lot of great opportunities, and I feel the responsibility to kind of act upon that and take them on, and to try and become a good painter. And for some people that's about selling lots of paintings, or it's about fitting into a genre, or even training towards fitting into a certain type of business. None of that really interests me, I guess. I just like making the things I like, and it's great that they actually, or a coincidence that people even like this aesthetic that comes out of me. I don't feel I ever have to doctor my work to to fit in, or to compromise for money or gratitude or anything like that. Maybe sounds a little bit arrogant. Maybe that comes a lot from graffiti. So these kind of pictures are, that's in an ex-Soviet base in Germany. I liked making a lot of that work because I could produce a lot of it, and I didn't have to stand next to it and say, yeah, I did this, or what do you think about it, or I've made one, I hope it's good. I made 1,000, and it was just for me, and you walk away at the end of it, and some people like it or they don't, or it gets removed. It was just a very good set of blank canvases to be making. I guess it's hard for me to talk about these things because I've just been doing them. I know what I've done, but when you speak at something like this, you want to talk about things you've done, where I'm really looking to the things that are coming up and in the future. But that makes sense, of course, right? Like, even the way I view other people's work, I'm looking at the stuff they've done, and I want to talk to them about that, or I'm interested in how they did that, because you don't get to see, or you don't know what is coming up. I guess another little sub part of that is you don't know the things that I've turned down or said no to pursue this kind of work. And I've done some commercial work, but I would say that I'm not very good at working to a brief, or yeah, well, let's not dwell on that stuff, I guess. Okay, so I haven't really spoken about that theme. I guess, yeah, like when Jeremy said the word hidden, I thought, oh, okay, so there's a theme, that's kind of good, but then it made me feel like a brief. Okay, I start to list all these things hidden, use it in a sentence and all this stuff. Oh man, this feels like work, and I don't think of my day-to-day life. I am in the studio probably at 9 every morning and stay till the evening every day, and that doesn't feel like work. There are some things that, normal human things of showering and eating and doing your taxes and checking email and stuff, but I've become really good at those things, but only to get rid of them, to move them to the side. This makes sense, right? Like, who wants to dwell on, like, scrubbing your bath? Like, it's just not a big part of life. You get good at that stuff of, dealing with people, and you try to clear that out, because I'm so focused on just having that time of being in my studio and having a blank sheet of paper, or continuing on the painting that I've been working on for weeks, or a set of paintings, really. And in between that, yeah, I get to go outside and paint with my friends. This one's in Manchester. So yeah, I spend about 3 or 4 months of the year traveling, usually, mainly in Europe, and I spend a lot of time in Japan. It seems weird to have to, it's fun, I guess, but that's just part of being a good artist, or even maybe a good human, is to travel more. Living in Australia is a very big privilege, I think, and to be born here is a big privilege. It's a good passport to have, but it's also a messed up country. We all know the bad parts about this country. Bigots fighting for the right to be bigots is not a good place to be in. It doesn't sit well with me, but on the other hand, I live in a tiny little bubble of just making beautiful work that makes me happy, and I share that with some people. So I have a bit of a guilt about that. Definitely travelling helps open your mind to those kind of things, and makes you realise the good and bad parts of that, and lets you contrast it all. For the work I make, but also where you live and those kind of things. So yeah, I do live in a little hideout of my studio. Good timing. My studio's in the city, and it's nice that it's separate to my house, even though I probably spend way more time in my studio. I've been in this spot for about six years. I used to share it with my partner, but we've kind of needed more space, so now I can make as much mess as I like. Yeah, it's a real super privilege to have a room that is locked off and I go to every day, and there's nothing else to do there. I don't have a net connection either, kind of on purpose. Just to be making work. It's got all my supplies there, so I try to be organised with food and all these other things, so I do not have to leave. I don't like breaking my concentration, I guess. So yeah, that is my hideout. I'm out in the real world today, but most of the time I'm hiding out in my studio. Yeah, and I have a bit of a guilt about that. There's a privilege, and I feel guilty about that. But yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. A lot of the work I was making when I was kind of starting to make more creative work was it was hidden. That kind of idea of placing work on the street was a political act, and it was anti-advertising. But it was also, I was contributing to that scene of work and that culture, and learning more about, we're more than 30 years or 40 years into the history of, mainstream graffiti and street art. I was a fan of that. I liked exploring spaces and coming across things, and sometimes that was street art, or sometimes it just fitted the idea of what I liked about that kind of stuff. So when I made work, I liked to hide it away as well, put it in spots where someone else would have the same kind of pleasure of finding it as well. So yeah, the other thing that suits my personality with that kind of work is when everybody else is asleep, even in a city like Melbourne, it is very quiet, and you walk the streets and yeah, it's hidden. I was walking around the streets with giant buckets of paste and posters, and no one said a word as I put up every night for years I was, putting up lots and lots of work. It just seemed hidden. And the next day I'd walk down the street, no one would know who I was. That's fine. Like, that was a good part to me. And you'd walk down a laneway and someone would be taking a photo of your work, and you were just totally hidden to it. Like, they didn't know that was you, and people, I don't want to feel like I eavesdrop on people, but if you hear someone talking about you and they don't know you're standing right next to them because they would just have no idea. I like that kind of stuff. Not that I was aiming for it, but I just like this hidden layer to, when the Beatles decided to pull back from public life and they sent their album on tour, I like that concept. I send my artwork out into the world and I stay at home, or I'm just anonymous to it. I think if it wasn't for the rude fact of I have to turn up to my opening. Some people do want to talk to me. If I could, I would remove myself from that. But I know that there are other levels that kind of maybe I should maybe stand next to it and speak for it. I don't like it when artists, especially in Australia, I've noticed a few artists over the last few years being called out for cultural appropriation. And when they're challenged on it, they keep their mouths shut. That's legal advice, but I'm putting this work out into the world. I've done some of it illegally. I've reclaimed space and said, take this. You have to speak for that as well. You can't just hide from it, I think. And if you're going to make work and people are going to call you out for cultural appropriation, I think you have to at least say what you feel about it, because you made it. You have to stand up for it. So, not that I'm doing any of that stuff, but I think people have asked, why have you done this, or can you share some of the good parts? And so, the human David has to turn up and say that stuff, because it is different to the artwork. It is the part behind it. So obviously I'm not very good at that part, and that's the reason that I make, there's a confidence or another kind of thing going on, letting me make, artwork, and I make a lot of it in different kind of ways, I guess. Okay, so I also wanted to talk about, one of the projects, I guess, I thought I'd talk through. Last year I painted a wind turbine. Yeah, good timing. Okay, so, this is in Daylesford, so it's about an hour and a bit, maybe hour and a half out of Melbourne. A person who'd been buying some of my work through my commercial gallery contacted me and said that he was part of establishing a wind farm, and so that's not like a commercial operation, not a big power company building it. The members of their town formed a co-op and bought these wind farms. In Australia, it's the only one at the moment. Australia has a bit of a problem with renewable energy. We're way behind other countries. Seems pretty obvious to me that it's not going to hurt to put up a few wind farms. So this community took it on themselves to build these turbines. They cost a bit of money, but within a few years they've paid them for themselves, and they power the whole town, and then they're selling power back to the grid. There are other problems with wind farms, especially the hate mail I've been given. Some people just have a problem with wind farms. It's this to me, it makes me realise I know I'm doing the right thing when I get the right wing attacking you. That's a good thing. So my friend contacted me and said, so what about this painting? I guess I can be honest and say it wasn't really about, there wasn't really any money to be made. It was more an excellent opportunity. So most of the time I can go to my studio and do whatever I want and, show that in a gallery and work on my own projects with my own ideas. But other times people bring me a great opportunity, and the wind farm was definitely one of those. So it's a project where I couldn't just walk up and just paint it straight away. It was compared to it like a wall like this, you can just walk up to it with a brush and a bit of paint and finish the whole thing. The wind farm really required me to build a little team of people, which is, I guess they're people that I've worked with over like 10 years that are good at, project management, or they're good at the design part to help me take my sketch to turn it into a 20-metre painting, I guess. Even the type of paint that was used is it's not just a spray paint or acrylic paint that I usually use. It had to be mixed on site, and it's a 2-part mix, and I had to go to an industrial supplier and learn how to use that. I had to get a new extra high-risk license for operating the lifts that I use. Work with engineers and do all this risk analysis and things like that, because it's a live power site. The wind turbines were operational, so I was lifting up into, I guess I could have just driven it into the blades. I didn't, so even the paint that I used, I couldn't have that interfere with the operation of the turbine. They've got a long life, and I couldn't have a paint that would, interfere with the coating, and void the warranty. That the generating of the power is way more important than having a painting on there. The community wanted a painting on there because they are really proud of stepping aside from the laws and finding a way to conquer energy. We all use energy, and of course I already have my own attitudes and understanding of that, but to walk into a community that are proud of these monuments to getting off the grid, I was pretty proud to be part of that community and to be around really positive people that have taken it on themselves. So they wanted something to look at, to praise. They already thought of them as personalities. There's 2 turbines on the site. And so, yeah, it was really easy for me to kind of come into that and hear that conversation and make a giant kind of positive figure, and then the community gather around to see me finish off the turbine, and we ignored all the little protesters around, which is kind of funny, I guess. So yeah, that's an easy thing. That another part of this privilege is that by pursuing the type of creativity that makes me happy, or that I feel is progressing to explore some of the things that I want to explore, it brings up these other opportunities that I can step aside and stop making money and stop doing normal human things to go and pursue this other project that actually has other benefits, not just to me, and because it's giant fun to work on a project like that. All the hard parts are balanced out by all the good parts of camping underneath there with your friends and working, non-stop for a few weeks. These are just very positive things. I don't want to really talk about the work that I turned down, but I'm lucky that I open my email and some people write to me and want to start a conversation about a piece of work. Some of those people, well, let's just say they're not very nice, or their motivations aren't in alignment with me. I've studied some marketing when I was at university, and I'm just so hypercritical of this manipulation through marketing and that kind of language, that unless the end goal is something that I think is worthwhile, I don't like this idea of just selling terrible product. I can't really think of a good example without naming names, or seeming just too bitchy about it. But so I guess I'm really privileged that I have the opportunity to choose who I work for and what kind of work that I do, because there are some commercial projects, or working with some brands that do let me, or they educate me, or they, when I work with an architect, I'm not an architect and I've never been trained in that area, but when I get invited in to work with an architect, they're going to teach me about their field, and we combine our skills, and I teach them a little bit about something else sometimes. So really I don't really have many computer skills, I guess. I don't really use Photoshop or Illustrator or anything like that. I like to work with other people who are pros at that, and I'm pursuing more my hand techniques of painting and drawing and 3D kind of making. Yeah, I feel like I'm ranting on a little bit. It's so hard to talk about stuff. I already know all this stuff, It's hard to know what other people care about or what they're even interested in. Okay, maybe I'm going to start to ask any questions. I feel like I'm going to be better at answering more direct questions from anybody. I'm kind of happy to answer anything. Ask it. Yeah, Spencer.
What challenges you, or find challenges?
Yeah, I guess dealing with people and even the workload. Yeah, again, it's a real privilege to put an image out and receive heaps of feedback about it, or open your inbox and find these opportunities. I find just managing that and keeping that headspace of keeping things ticking over and making sure I'm fed, or making sure that at least some of the bills are paid, that does not interfere with the innocence. When I make work, oh man, this is something I haven't really mentioned, but I'm creating another world. I go to another dimension. This is a type of freedom. This is relaxing. This is diary keeping. This is an entity that I have to protect. And so the challenge for me is to not combine those worlds and not to mess it up. If I couldn't, let's call it meditation. If I couldn't get to my meditation, I'm not going to be very good. Like I have to defend that and protect the parts that I do like about it, because I know it's pure and innocent. But that does take work to not let money or some kind of brand manager like step in and interfere with it, because it's pretty easy for me to flip it all over and sell it all out, or okay, here's one, because it's so long ago it's ridiculous. This we'll say brand manager, I don't know, some kind of corporate came to me and offered me there was money involved, of course, but they really wanted me to do something that would that was part of the budget would be to bail me out, like when I get arrested, to do this thing, they want this street art kind of style stuff and all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, man, that was like 10 years ago again. So, I'm 32, so just ridiculous. But even then I was able to, I'm standing up, I'm moving away from you. You're like, this is, I'm not your guy. Could have been done. Plenty of those little opportunities have been there to walk away, or to sell it out, or to withdraw completely and just to be selling these paintings to rich people through a gallery and never speak again, never even put anything online. There are some big artists, and some of them are good, of course, but some people don't even need a public website or anything like that. They can just withdraw and just become part of the money-making machine. And I think a lot of the art world, I don't aspire to be just in the art world. I think a lot of it is corrupt and just managed, and it's just product trading for rich people. And not to say that some of that art isn't great, but it's not something to aspire to. So I'm well aware of that, and I don't want that interfering with my thing. Not because I think it's great and deserves this ultimate respect, and you better be careful when you tread near it, but it is to me. So, it's like, I can't mess that up, I guess.